السلام عليكم وشكرا جزيلا لحضوركم. مجموعة أجندة مفتوحة, the open themes groups. Welcome everyone here. This session will be about حيقدموا لنا الفنان التشكيلي محمد حمزة عن وجوه هوايات وثقافات. قبل كده في a little bit of house rules, fire exit, this one and this one, and the assembly point here and behind the building. The toilet located at right side of the corridor. Please switch your mobile off. Regarding the photo, the only person allowed to make a photo here is OpenSim, and it will be posted on the YouTube OpenSim channel. If anybody don't want his photo to be shown, please let Moniem know. الأستاذ الدكتور إبراهيم كوجان هو أخصائي القلب جراحة القلب وفنان تشكيلي وخريج معهد الفنون as well. حي to lead a session. بعد ذلك الأستاذ محمد حمزة يكون شغال رسم حي. بعد ذلك حيكون في بريك. بعد البريك حيكون في discussions. في خلال البريك في كتب عبارة عن الأعمال الأستاذ محمد حمزة. الكتاب ده ب20 جنيه. It will be signed if anybody interested. في لوحات. إذا في زول عنده رغبة إنه يشتري لوحة مش هيشتريها دلوقتي لكن يحجزها دلوقتي وحيكون في معرض للمسألة دي ولا حول بينكم وبين دكتور إبراهيم كوجان. تفضل.
طيب السلام عليكم. في الحقيقة عايز أتكلم زي نص دقيقة كده عن محمد حمزة. أنا وهو كنا زملاء في كلية الفنون وهو قرر إنه يواصل في الشغلانة دي وأنا يعني ضليت الطريق ومشيت بقيت طبيب يعني. لكن بتجمعنا المسألة بتاعت العمل المشترك في الفن تحديدا. بعدين هو متخصص زي ما انتم شايفين في الفن بتاع البورتريه، وفي نفس اللحظة ممكن ناس تسأل يعني the total human figure برضه portrait واسمه figurative arts. محمد عمل كمية بتاعت معارض وكان أستاذ بتاع فنون في ويلز and he was يعني he won the prize of teacher of the year في كارديف 2000 ولا حاجة زي دي 2005 و being celebrated in Cardiff and all over the world. Also he had masterpieces in South Africa and in the Gulf and in this country as well. The idea of this presentation, Muhammad Hamza, he will start doing a live portrait لزميلنا الطبيب الدكتور أيمن الخطيب. وفي نفس اللحظة أنا I'm going to present Faces, Cultures and Identities, essays by Glenn Gordon. He's a professor of anthropology and history at Wales University. And Juliet Thomas, she's also a professor of humanities in Wales. They both together collaborated to write this book about the art of Muhammad Hamza, and also some quotations from Muhammad Hamza as well, and some other people contributed in the making of this book. A little introduction about the history of art, لكن بس concentrating في history of the portrait. And then gradually we'll move across لغاية ما نجي the way Muhammad Hamza makes his portraits. And if you have any question, you just save it later, or we'll do it after the break when he will have a little chat with you guys, okay? This is Professor Glenn Jordan. He's a professor of anthropology and history in Wales University. He retired now, actually, and he's a musician, as you can see, as well as he is a very good photographer. He himself, he has a few shows in the past in Wales about the faces of mainly the immigrants to the United Kingdom. as well as the local ethnic minorities. I would like to start with the history of portrait, and this is a portrait of Michelangelo. It's a very famous, about 1500 years ago. وكان هو he's also he's a poet, and he is an architect, sculptor, and a painter. And in those days, he started. People are really not interested in portraits as a piece of art until during the Renaissance or Asr al-Nahda, they started to get interested in the portrait, where people they started to pay money to have their pictures done by a famous artist. The difference between each artist is actually the way he make the picture. And portrait people or portrait artists sometimes okay, you guys, you happy إنه نتكلم بالإنجليزي؟ Okay, ولا بالعربي؟ Okay. The difference is that as I said, portrait artists عندهم طريقة بيشتغلوا بيها. They started to work in art in a way that is, after a while, the artist has his own signature and has his own way of doing things. Michelangelo in particular, he uses lines rather than light, rather than spaces, and shade them. This is his own self-portrait. It's Michelangelo. He's looking through his sketchbook. As you can see, the most important thing in figurative drawing and portrait making is actually to do drawings using the knowledge of anatomy, human anatomy, just like medical students do. And this is the final piece of his work, Michelangelo himself. And this is his friend. He paid him some money, maybe about a few thousand by today's money, to have his portrait done. Another one. I'm just going through, and then sometimes I'll just concentrate. So basically, during the era of 1500 to about 1600 BC not BC, during the Milad Yani, the art of portrait became very famous and became a cornerstone of most of the arts. And during that time, there is Michelangelo, there is Raphael. This is Raphael. The difference between Raphael and Michelangelo does his work as lines, while Raphael, most of his work is, he uses the human figure as blocks, pieces of blocks, like the cheeks has one color, and it has to have that rounded ways of making things. And he concentrated particularly in the hands. And through his work, you'll see most of his sitters or portraits, they actually have very distinctive hands and very distinctive body language. And this is Raphael. Raphael himself, he actually used anatomy to the best of his knowledge. At that time, people are not allowed to dissect bodies. We study them. But somehow, he managed to portray or to display his work through his anatomy is really important, and he made it so clear that his knowledge of anatomy is just like the knowledge of most of the doctors at that time. And you can see here the body, the way he put the muscles, and everything seems to be very clear, and all the anatomical regions, the surface anatomy. I myself, I taught anatomy quite often. The muscles group are just amazing. And now we move to the way he makes his portraits. As you can see, he uses three big pieces or regions: the green background, the head of the sitter, and the body. And you can see the details of the way he made the eyes, the way the person looks, and also the cloth, very distinct. All these wrinkly things, he managed to put them very well. And you can see the hands actually, they have the same posture. And this is Jesus, the same way he portrays the hands and the tilted head, and he makes them look very kind of innocent and vulnerable. The same thing, Jesus, the same way he makes the hand very spindly, very nice and smooth, as if in those old days, that is, the hand of the person will reflect the way he lives his life. If the hands are really rough and wrinkly and full of veins and strings and cuts, that means you're working in a hardship kind of thing, and you do very tough job. But the way he does the hands again and the face make them very smooth and vulnerable, as if he says these people from a very nice kind of background and stuff. Interestingly, the way Raphael makes his portraits, he's actually reflect the way he looked at the sitter. And actually, this is a photo or a picture of a man. He works as a banker in Rome about 1,500 years ago. He actually made him look like a female with some sideburns, just to tell people this is a man, but he looks like a woman. And that made some people think that this Raphael is gay and he loves men, kind of thing. But in reality, this is the way he looks at people. The human body is so unique, can be transformed between the sexes. Actually, I got this slide just to show people that is, no matter how he does his portraits, he's always concentrating at the movements of the hands and make them unique, as if this is his signature. Again, the hand, but it's not very clear here. But we call it three-quarters portrait. Yeah, and the portrait is not facing you. It is some kind of tilted. So you see only three-quarters of the face. Just for the sake of the hands, this one. And this is the tilted face of Raphael. A lot of people, they think that is Raphael actually, while he was doing his portraits, he's actually taking part of himself and put that part in the portrait. And that is put the theory of psychoanalysis. Most of the artists actually, they think that is, while you're doing a portrait for a long time, you get a sitter, you paint them for over and over again. After a while, you see, you know, the eyes, maybe the cheeks, they started to look like you. This is just a merchant. He paid money for Raphael to do him, but the eyes can somehow portray who did this portrait. The same thing here. And Mona Lisa, everybody knows Mona Lisa. And everybody loves Mona Lisa, actually. Again, the hands, the very mysterious look and the smile. They say that is he painted Mona Lisa over a few years, although he finished from the painting in the first few months, but he just continued adding and adding. Even the old versions of Mona Lisa, there is no background. This beautiful landscape. But the recent, after they did some kind of studies in Mona Lisa, like scanning the picture and everything, they discovered that it's actually Mona Lisa. It's multiple images, and people, they think that it's his wife and girlfriend, but the idea, somebody paid money to have his wife painted by Raphael. So Mona Lisa is actually some very rich man's wife, and he paid a lot of money for a beautiful woman to be pictured. The art of portrait, actually, or portrait making, or portraiture, I learned this word only about a few days ago, portraiture instead of art of portrait. It's actually, as I say, you depend on lines, you figure and pieces of the face or the body, and make them measure in one beautiful picture. But about 1600 years ago, no, 1600 in Amsterdam, there was a painter, his name is Rembrandt, and he used basically his knowledge about anatomy as well as the distribution of light. So he used the light mainly to give his sitter face that is, you can light here and you see the shadow in the other side, but when you look at the whole picture together, then you see a very different kind of portrait. And if you put in your mind that there is no oil colors, about only 200 years ago, people started to make use of oil colors. But in the past, they use powder, they mix it up, and they cook it, literally cook it, and add some salts to fix it, and then they use it in the art of portraits. And those days, the art of portrait is one category, and the other category is the landscape painting. And the French people were first started to use oil only about 200 years ago. And the idea of using the oil made the art of portraiture, very glazy and very nice and very luminous. So this is the picture of Rembrandt. He's in early 30s. He used the technique of light. He switched off the lights. There is no electricity, but he just used candles in certain areas, and then the reflection of those candles in the face, he take them and put them in the portrait making. And then we come to the last word that is in the art of portrait, apart from the light, the lines, and the figures, or whatever you call it, kutel, part of the body. When you merge them together, you have to apply some layers of paint. So you can easily, after you do the drawing, you start doing the painting, and then you apply some layers of the art. And those layers are actually made from the dominant colors in the background, the face, the hair, and the body. This is, again, the use of light. This is based by Rembrandt. It's a lady, nobody knows her name. And if you can see the iris, or in the eye, the brown part of that, it looks so real when you compare it with the colors around it, the sclera, the white part of the eye, and the small little pupil. So the reflection of the light in the eyes is almost unique and almost realistic. And some people, they think that is Rembrandt. He uses the light to perfect his work and make his work so unique and make his work almost near the real experience, and made him very rich, that experience. I use this too. If you can see the image of the candles almost at the side here. At the same time, he uses few more lights here, just to see the use of light in the art of picture making. And this is the drawing of his Rembrandt himself, using light again, even in the black and white, and he uses light. In those days, there is no pencils and everything. It's just, as Muhammad Hamza doing here at the moment, is just using sticks of charcoal. We move now to another era of portrait making in Rome. The history goes back to about 5,000 years ago, when people started to do portraits about the kings and the queens in the walls of the caves. But when you move forward, apart from having the portrait as a beautiful picture for somebody, and then you make it very beautiful and make it near realistic thing, like nowadays they do hyper-realism and stuff, and then the portrait started to take another turn in Rome. It's become more dramatic, and nobody can reflect the drama better than this man. His name is Merisi Cavaraggio. I remember the School of Arts when we don't remember the real names because of the difficulty of things. As Merisi, we call him Marisa. Marisa means Sudanese wine. So his name is Marisa or Merisi Cavaraggio. He's a very anxious man. He drinks a lot. He spent all his time in the bars of Rome, and he spent most of the half of the other part of the night in the streets of the red districts in Rome. And most of his sitters are actually sex working females. And he uses the drama of pain, the drama of fighting, the anxiousness, the fear, and put these dramas in the faces of his sitters. And he made beautiful portraits. We start by this work. The reason he did this painting, it looks very real, and the anatomy is so unique and beautiful, and almost realistic as well. He had a fight with one of the noble people in Rome, and when you have a fight with somebody of those days, the people, they go outside, and then we meet on Sunday, and they fight. Whoever kills the other guy, he's a winner. And he actually managed to kill that nobleman. And when he killed him, he became almost doomed by two forces, like most of the time by the church, because the nobleman is somehow related to the religious people, and also to the aristocrats at that time. So he's wanted. Although it's a noble fight, he won it realistically, but unfortunately, he has to leave Rome. And this is one of the paintings after he left Rome. He painted this guy. He looks very beautiful. His face is very serene and very kind of clear face. And actually, the chopped head is actually Mauricio Cavaraggio's head. He painted himself as if somebody chopped his head, as if he wanted to tell us that this is the way he might die. And it is a drama. It is like like a theater thing, and you can see the look of fear in this lady's face. And she's a sex worker in the Lake District, no, the Red District in Rome. And he built his portrait by just painting and drawing different faces and merge them together to give you that unique look of fear or happiness. He never had a happy face anyway. And this is a man, he's about to die. You can see the tinted nose because of the being punched in the face. And again, it's just a story of unique pain. Just like Raphael, again, he sometimes does his paintings and make people look asexual. You cannot say it's a woman or a man. Just a beautiful face with a beautiful posture. And the idea in the past, people that carry roses or they carry flowers or fruits, is kind of the way they live life. Is the kind of he portrayed them as if they really love the life and eat the fruits and make wine out of it, but at the same time, that look of sadness with very strange pleasure kind of look in the face. And I don't want to talk any further about the mixture of pain and pleasure in this place. Okay, I'm going to take a breather. This is Muhammad Hamza, not this one here. Muhammad Hamza, part of his ideas of making portraits is actually he paint people, he sees them, and he thinks that is when you paint people on your walk of life, you're actually registering the history and their cultures and their identities. That is why his book actually faces cultures and identities. And in this regard, Professor Glenn Johnson, he says that whose culture shall be the official one and whose shall be the subordinate. When you look at faces, sometimes you find yourself, just because people who belong to a certain aristocratic background, do you think, that is the question, they have the upper hand, they have their cultures become registered and become noted compared to other people? And this guy is the Speaker of the House of Commons during 1990s. And actually, he commissioned Muhammad Hamza to do his portrait. He couldn't actually recognize himself, and he thought, this is what he says, that he thought he's looking at the mirror. That here you are. When you become a famous artist, you draw famous people, and you make money out of it. This is Muhammad Hamza when he travels along. If he travels, for example, to Glasgow, he will pick people from the streets and just do their drawings and make a small exhibition uses his drawings. So he traveled to Juba, he spent 2 or 3 years there, and he picked people from all different walks of life, did their portraits with charcoal and sometimes with oil, and just invite them to enjoy and celebrate the idea of art, and stay and have some drinks with him, and the following morning they disappear because of this work. And you can see at the background the late John Garang. And this is the same thing happened somewhere in Bahri. People we know, people we don't know, but they came together and have their portraits being done. And then in the same house, there is an exhibition. This is a man from الجزيرة مش؟ محمد.
It's everybody's grandfather.
It's everybody's grandfather. It's Muhammad Ahmad is a famous Sudanese name. And when you say المواطن Muhammad Ahmad, that means you mean just a Sudanese guy and everybody's grandfather. The reason I put this portrait here is the unique way of using the color of the background as part of the portrait. For example, it's a white sheet, but uses that white sheet itself to be part of the cloth and part of the turban without adding any colors. And then just put where is the light and where is the shades, and just leave it like that. And then gradually, when you move across the portrait, you add the layers, layer by layer, make it so light. And you wouldn't believe this guy is Muhammad Abu Digin. He's a very, very famous Sudanese painter. He suddenly stopped doing the painting and everything, and he was an abstract painter as well as a guitarist. And he decided to be a Sufi, and he stayed in Hamad al-Nil, and now he's leading the Sufi group of Al-Qadriya in Durman. He no longer likes paintings. Maybe it's part of the devil's thing, according to the Sufis. But here we are. People do change. And this is part of the changes that happened to anybody during his history. And this is the late John Garang. Actually, the background is a gray sheet of paper like that, and then just using that background as part of the painting. And you can see that reflection of the forehead, this area is the same at the background. And then there's the building of the layers, and while you're going through the painting. It's another, some, ده عمدة مش كده؟ The governor of Juba, of Bahr al-Ghazal. If Muhammad did not do his portrait, probably he will end up in one of the ditches dead. Yeah. using the background, using the hair, using the clothes, as you can see, one of the boards here is actually just a charcoal color, but made of acrylic. And that will be the mainstay of the painting. When you go through the paintings at the background, you see them just made from one color, and then you build the portrait from outside in until you make the picture. And that's what makes the use of colors itself is very economical. Hala. Her name is actually Hala. I didn't make that up. She's half Sudanese, half Egyptian. She lives in Cairo. She's an artist herself, a singer, I guess. And she knows how to sit for a portrait, right? This is the early days when we started doing model drawing and uses different models, using different techniques, but the essence of the work again is just make the use of colors and charcoal very economical, and use the background and the sheet or the canvas as part of the painting. Again here, pencil drawing for a model in Cardiff, 1998, I guess. And you can see the lines are very hazy, very light, as if they are more tentative rather than real lines, and using the background as the mainstay of the picture. The people who are having some difficulty to understand this lady is not suffering from cancer. It's just something called alopecia totalis, and that is you lose your hair completely without any reason. So it's something called autoimmune disease and stuff, but that's another reason. She decided, she's a very brave girl, she decided not to have a wig at all. And she came to the studio and she had her picture done. It's like a message. Celebrate what you have. And there is no point for having wigs if you don't want them. It's just an idea. It's all about how you think about yourself and how you think about the cultures. This is, again, she's a model. She's decided to have this kind of painting like belly dancing kind of thing. And she stood for it for a good period of time. So again, this is, you can see the background is dark red going into brown, and then the total or the dominant color is the blue. And then you build the portrait or the figure from the center and going back. And then, funny enough, there's a very light blue that connecting the three pieces of the painting, and that is almost a unique way of making the portrait or the figure art, when you just do the painting and then cover it with one thin layer of almost transparent thing to connect the pieces of the three dimensions of the paper together and just make everything fall into place in a very nice way. Early work of Muhammad Hamza, again using charcoal and using some other things. And then, as you can see, the dominant is the color of the sheet itself. And this is a money-making machine. So yeah, this is people that pay money, a lot of money, to have their portraits being done. I don't like this guy at all, but he paid him money anyway. And we had a nice guard after that. And somebody from Saudi Arabia also paid a lot of money. This is the king. Who's the name of the king?
This is I think Abdulaziz, yes.
King Abdulaziz. One of his associates here in London, he wanted to celebrate the king, and he paid money. And actually, while he's doing the painting, Muhammad is cursing him because he doesn't believe in kingdom and stuff. But anyway, we need the money. Right, the final part of the portrait making is actually using the past and using whatever famous merge them together to make a stand, to make an idea, or just to send people a message. And everybody knows the face of Angelina Jolie. She's beautiful, her lips are voluptuous, full, she's sexy, that kind of thing. And then this guy actually, he cut the face and used Vermeer painting, the most famous painting. It was a film by Scarlett Johansson and Peter something. And they made a beautiful painting. The girl with the pearl earrings, yeah, pearl earrings, yeah. بنت ذات القرطة اللؤلؤي بالعربي الفصيح جدا. And the idea sometimes, as I'm going to show you another one, that is, you wanted to make an stand, or you want to say something as a portrait artist. Either this is very simple. In the second year in the School of Art, we call it collage, and actually just make things together and try to make something out of it. And recently, some people, they say that this art is no longer about the talent and how to do things. It's about whether you have an idea in your head or not. That's what makes your art actually happens, and that's what makes your art really palpable. And again, this is the face of the Mona Lisa, but you can see it was being screwed in a very funny body. And again, just, I don't know what he wanted to say. Maybe everybody likes the Mona Lisa and she became like something else.
You still call it portrait?
Yes, the whole body is portrait. Actually, the guy who won the portrait prize of the year 2013, he actually did a painting of a naked woman in a chain. So they paid him the money of the prize because the work is really beautiful. But the idea behind the work, that is what made him win the prize. So it's a portrait of somebody who's really lazy to sit down and do painting for a few days. No, I'm going to take the Mona Lisa, put the head here, make a nice body and high heels, and sitting in a very narrow place, maybe a train in Germany or something. And actually using the old portrait, the very famous portrait, and try to make pictures similar to that portrait. I have 5 minutes. It's actually as if you're celebrating your own culture. For example, we are Sudanese here. We have beautiful faces. I can take, for example, Manal or Intisar and make the portrait, but I dress her like Queen Victoria. So in a way, you wanted to make that connection, that is, this is my culture, but I'm going to put it in a very different way for people to understand that is the way we look at our people or anything, actually, this is the way we celebrate ourselves. So the culture actually is the most dominant thing in art. And then the idea. And then if you have talent and you merge those two together, then you have a nice piece of work. And this is, again, the girl with the pearl earrings by Vermeer. And she's beautiful. And he used the distribution of light. And because in those old days there is no oil color, he used powders made from different stuff and then grind them together, then cooking those powders with some different salts, and then he started painting. She's actually working with him in his studio as dye maker. So that she just, in the morning, I need some blue, I need some azurite stuff, I need some red magma or magma red. She will mix them together, make them in a nice big plate, and he used them to paint. And then one day he said, oh, Jesus, I want this girl to be painted, because she looks so innocent, yet she's about 24 when she had the painting. And we have our own girl with pearl earrings. She is a colleague of ours, actually. She's one of my students in medical school. And she met Muhammad Hamza in Doha. and he decided to make her famous. And he made a lot of money out of it. Shall I tell them? Yeah, the American ambassador to Sudan, he has some kind of background related to African Americans, and he saw her as a perfect example of a beautiful queen from Sudan, and he paid very good money, made this guy to travel the world again. And this is just to see the similarities. It is not important, however, to use the same colors. But as, do you know Damon Hirst? He's a British artist who won some prizes in 1997. He used, had a very nice frame. Do not borrow the idea, steal it. That's what he says, because he just steals ideas of some other young artists and he makes his work. There are three things that is I want to conclude my work with, my talk to you guys. That is, Muhammad Hamza uses 3 layers of painting all the time and made it his. And those 3 layers are actually being reflected by Professor Julia Thomas. She said something about those, but in a very different way. Yeah. She said portraiture then forges a link between the portrait image and the human origin. Or rather, it is the attempt to eradicate the link altogether, to give the impression that these two are interchangeable, the art of portrait and the human origin. That what we see on the canvas is a person. Muhammad Hamza portrays the strive after this illusion, that is to portray the person as original human, but do not forget that the work of art should be so unique and just a signature of whatever he does. This is by Professor Julia Thomas. These 3 pieces, when you merge them together, they give the unique work of Muhammad Hamza. I conclude that. I use that as a conclusion. Thank you very much. And